Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about how I overcame my fear of contributing to open source. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can get right into it. Like I said, it's called Overcoming the Fear of Contributing to Open Source. So I had been a software engineer for 3 years before I contributed to open source. And I procrastinated contributing to open source for almost all 3 of those years. Everyone was telling me, you should contribute to open source. Like, it will be so good for you. And I tried, but every time I tried, I felt very anxious, intimidated, worried, like frustrated. I was just like, I don't know what to do. Like, every time I found the project, I would start worrying, like, is this the right project for me to be choosing? Is this the one for me? Will I feel excluded? Like, I've heard that some open source projects can be very exclusive and stuff like that. And I'm looking at the chats and everyone seems to be all buddy, and I don't know anybody. I wasn't really sure how to navigate the projects. I'm like, what are these files doing? I have no clue. Like, what's going on in this code base? And I was not sure if I'll be valuable to the project or community. I was like coming from a couple environments where people will say negative things about my code. So I was worried that, like, in open source, I'm putting myself out there for someone to be like, this code sucks. And I didn't want to go through that. So I came to the conclusion that I'm just not going to contribute, right? Because I already get paid to code. So why would I code for free? Like, that's what I thought in my head. Before I go any further, let me actually introduce myself a bit more. My name is Rizel. I'm a junior developer advocate at Github. I'm also a bootcamp graduate. I love React. I love SQL. Like, those are my favorite programming languages. And I'm a big fan of Chloe and Halle Bailey. If you don't know who they are, I'm gonna tell you. They are a sister singing duo that started off on YouTube. Halle has a lead role in the live action Little Mermaid. They're being mentored by Beyonce, and they're like my life goals, right? And I was like, you know what? If they're my life goals, and I just got an offer, like, this is when I got an offer to work at GitHub. I just got an offer to work at GitHub, which is like a bomb company. Like, this is my time to make a really big impact. This is my time to like aim to be what I view them as. And I was thinking, GitHub is the home of open source. So let me go ahead and try to give open source another try. I can't be here being a developer advocate at the home of open source, and I've never contributed to open source. So I ended up making my first contribution to open source in August of 2021, and it was completely worth it. Let me tell you why. I got to learn something new. I gained a new community. I had something to blog about and tweet about. If you ever followed me on Twitter at Black Girl Bites, you know that I'm always tweeting about tech things. And it made me feel empowered and confident because it was something that I was scared of doing and that looked intimidating to me. And like, once I seen that pull requests get merged, I was like, I did it. I really did. So what did I do differently? Because I went from I'm scared of doing this to I like open source, and I'm always trying to get myself in there. So how did I do that? I set myself up for success by doing these 3 things instead of what I mentioned before. I got a support system. I started small, and I followed the best practices outlined for that project. Let's talk about what that can look like for you. So in gaining a support system, that can look like introducing yourself in the group chat, Slack, Discord, discussions, whatever it is. There is a place within every open source project where contributors and maintainers are chatting with each other. Also, reach out to maintainers, right? If you're new to the open source space, oftentimes maintainers are happy to help you. They are a little busy, but they're happy to help you because they're like, you're new, I get it. And I think it it creates that sense of belonging, that repertoire that you needed, because now it's not just a person behind this profile pic that seems mysterious. Now you put a face to the name, and you've been able to chat with them. So it's nice to reach out to them as well. And then also what worked for me is reminding myself that I knew other engineers who would be able to assist me. I'm like, if I ever, like worst case scenario, got stuck, I graduated from a coding bootcamp where there's a whole bunch of other engineers that I know. And then also, like, my husband's an engineer. So if I get stuck, I can be like, hey, I need your help. This is a screenshot of B. Dougie telling me, like, hey, you should contribute to my project that I have. It's an open source project and I'm happy to mentor you. Here's how you would go about doing it. That really, really helped me out. Even though I ended up not needing his help, that created like a sense of belonging, like, oh, I can like contribute to this project. I feel comfortable now. This is also a screenshot of me introducing myself in the Discord for his project, and I was like, hey, this is me, and everyone really embraced me. That made me feel good as well. Let's talk about what it looks like to start small, or what that can look like. So starting small for me was I took one day to thoroughly read through the documentation. Prior to contributing, I had just like jumped in, picked up a ticket, and been like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do next. But with starting small, I was like, okay, I'm going to just take this one day to read through the documentation, figure out what I got to do next. Then the second day, I explored the code base. What function is making this happen? What's happening here? Because I always knew that I was nervous or getting overwhelmed by navigating the code base. So I'm like, let me just explore it and see what's going on before I pick up a ticket. And then once I started to feel comfortable, I picked up an issue that felt achievable to me. I'm like, I can do this. It's not too hard. It's not too easy where I feel like I'm sandbagging, but I like this ticket. And then also joining the triage team, which I will talk about in a second. So when I talk about documentation, there's this thing called the contributing.md or contributing guidelines, which kind of lays out how it should look for someone to contribute to your project. It answers a lot of the questions for you. It's kind of like a frequently asked questions doc. In this example, they outline like how to make a pull request, how to wait for review, how to make suggested changes, how to report bugs, all of that stuff. Any question you have, it'll be answered in the contributing guidelines. You're like, okay, cool. This is how I contribute. Now, in terms of the triage team, this is a role that's great for you if you don't feel comfortable coding yet, or you want to exercise some non-technical skills. Like, open source is not only for people who are into coding. If you want to get into product management or product ownership, or you want to flex those skills, the triage team might be for you. Oftentimes in a triage team, you're writing, organizing, labeling, and prioritizing issues. You're reviewing code. You're doing a little QA, like maybe manual QA. And like, you'll be the maintainer's hero, because a lot of times this is stuff that the maintainer has to do on their own. In addition to like managing everybody, they also have to manage the project. So you coming in and helping them is so valuable. I do want to note that not every open source project has a triage team, but it's good to inquire about it. And even if they don't have that, you can be like, hey, I want to help with doing this. Like, I want to help you prioritize issues. And I'm sure the maintainer will be like, come on board. Okay, in terms of following best practices, let's talk about that. That can look like double checking the contributing.md or contributing guidelines. I can't stress it enough. But for me, I kept double checking to make sure, am I styling my components correctly? Am I formatting my code the way that this project prefers? Then also, a best practice is linking your pull requests to issues, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. So as we can see here in this GIF, this person opens a pull request and they say this issue closes number 27. That way, when the issue is closed, or when the pull request is closed and merged, it'll automatically close the issue. Basically, this automatically reflects the progress of an issue based on the pull request. Why does this matter? Why is it helpful, right? It reduces the workload and any confusion for you, collaborators, and the maintainer. And you do this by using the keyword closes, fixes, resolves, followed by the issue number, as we can see in this GIF. Let's talk about how to contribute. So find a project that you're comfortable with and interested in. It helps when you're interested in the project because you'll be a little bit more invested. There's tons of projects that you may be already using every day, right? Like React JS is an open source language. Visual Studio Code is an open source platform. Like these are things you're already familiar with and know how to use. And you might have an idea of like, oh, I wish this could be added to the project. Also, leverage first-time contributor aggregators. So there's like a website called firsttimersonly.com. There's I think GitHub issues, goodfirstissues.dev. Like there's a whole bunch of things on the internet that help you find issues that are good for first-time contributors. You can also search open source topics on github.com. So if you do github.com/topics and like follow it by JavaScript or CSS or whatever, you'll find a whole list of projects that are open sourced and are within like languages you prefer to use. Let's talk about Hacktoberfest. This is a competition or an event that happens every year around October. And basically, if you make 4 or more Hacktoberfest accepted pull requests, you get to win things like swag, or you can get a tree planted in your name. That's what happened last year. They may be doing something different this year, but it's a really good opportunity because that's when open source projects open up their projects to new contributors, and they make sure that they have issues available to new contributors. There's also the idea of reading your contributing guidelines. Again, like I will stress that so much. How to get started, find the project, then read the contributing guidelines. It makes it easier for you and the maintainer because now you have less questions and you can go to the maintainer with like other questions beyond that if you have any. And just to give you guys a separation or idea of what the difference between a README and a contributing guidelines is, the README shows how to use the project. It's the first thing you land on when you're inside of a repository, but the contributing MD talks about how to contribute to the project. Also, get comfortable with the workflow of contributing in open source. It can be a little bit different than like when you're working on a personal project, or different than when you're working on a project at work. When you make a pull request, you got to fork the project first, clone the project, and then branch, commit, and push your changes. And then you make a pull request comparing forks. Let me show you an image of what that looks like. Oh. Right here, as we can see, this person put the base repository, and this is the open source project branch, and then the head repository is the forked branch that he made or they made. And that's how you would compare across forks. There's a couple projects that you can contribute to, and I'll give you a couple of suggestions. There's way more, but here are some that I know of and I think are pretty like new contributor friendly. We have Julia, and it's a general purpose programming language. It solves the 2-language problem where like it's not only fast, but it's also readable. And it's mostly used in scientific computing. They even used it, or this organization called Pumas used it to develop accelerated pharmaceutical models for things like Moderna and Pfizer. And the cool thing, or why I like Julia, is because they have different resources for you to learn how to write in Julia. They have Julia Academy, which has like reading, video, audio, anything, any way that you learn, they have those resources. There's also open source. I think that's a really good one. Basically, open source provides structured onboarding for new contributors to open source. You can learn more about GitHub's GraphQL API. You can flex your React skills, whatever you want. This is definitely the place. You also have Virtual Coffee, and basically this is a community that's open to all levels, or mentoring all levels of software engineers. And it really is a good way for you to contribute or make your first contribution. There's also Forum. Forum is what dev.to was built on. And I believe they use Ruby for contributions, definitely another friendly project. And then we also have Fig. Fig is a cool new project that's out that adds autocomplete to your existing terminal. I've talked to the maintainer a lot, and they have a pretty good process for people to get onboarded into here. This seems like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be doing things in the terminal, but they have a good process for you to learn how to do that. And then one of the last ones is Sharing Excess. Basically, this is a project that I've personally contributed to as well, and they use food surplus to solve food scarcity. It's mostly maintained and contributed to by students of Drexel University, but they're open to more contributors as well. I will end by saying you don't have to rush your journey at all. But you can start today by making little steps to accomplishing your goal of contributing to open source. I'll end this by just saying follow me at Black Girl Bytes on multiple social media platforms, Twitter, Hashnode, GitHub. And thank you to Upstream for allowing me to speak. And thank you to everyone for listening.